Port Charles had seen its fair share of morally ambiguous leaders, but none like DA Grace Turner. Smart, fierce, and determined to clean up the streets, Grace had made waves since her arrival. With piercing eyes and a reputation for never backing down, she was the kind of district attorney who made even the most seasoned mobsters uneasy. From the moment she arrived, Grace had one name on her mind: Sonny Corinthos. The infamous mob boss, father, and protector of Port Charles had long danced a careful ballet between power and the law. Grace wasn't just here to tango, she came to win. But what no one expected was the spark that lit the fuse of a fire no one could control. Grace had planned to meet Sonny on her own terms. Not through back channels or shady intermediaries, but face to face. She walked into the Metro Court with a steel determination, and Sonny, sipping espresso with his usual cool confidence, glanced up at the storm that was D.A. Turner. "Mr. Corinthos," she said without flinching, "you and I need to talk." Sonny smirked. "You came all this way just for me? I'm flattered." Their first conversation was electric, charged with unspoken threats and unexpected flirtation. Grace accused him of laundering money through shell companies. Sonny accused her of using the law as a weapon for personal glory. But the tension wasn't just professional, it was personal, and it was palpable. Soon, they began to cross paths more frequently. Grace claimed it was about surveillance. Sonny said it was coincidence. But the way they looked at each other, lingering eyes, half smiles, subtle glances, told a different story. At a charity event hosted by the hospital, they ended up seated at the same table. Everyone noticed the chemistry. Carly narrowed her eyes. Nina whispered something to Drew. Jason remained silent, analyzing. "Your reputation precedes you," Grace whispered, sipping her wine. "And yours," Sonny replied, "is just getting started." The dance had begun. Port Charles started buzzing. Was Sonny Corinthos actually hooking up with the district attorney? Was this a strategy, or something deeper? His enemies believed it was manipulation. His allies weren't so sure. Grace, meanwhile, found herself battling temptation and ethics. She'd fought to become DA to change the system, not fall for the man who embodied everything wrong with it. But Sonny wasn't just a criminal. He was complicated. He was loyal, protective, and had suffered more losses than most could imagine. One night, after an intense courtroom showdown involving Dex, who had been arrested during a sting operation, Sonny followed Grace to her office. "You're making a lot of noise," she said, exhausted. "I like noise," he replied. "It drowns out the past." Then, without warning, they kissed. The affair began quietly, secretly, in the shadows of late nights and empty corridors. Grace would find herself in Sonny's penthouse, her clothes on the floor, her ethics in the trash. Jason found out first. He saw Sonny leaving Grace's office after hours. "You sure this is wise?" Jason asked. "I'm not sure of anything anymore," Sonny admitted. Carly, too, grew suspicious. When she confronted Sonny, he didn't deny it. "She sees me," he said simply. "What does she see, Sonny? The man? Or the power?" Carly snapped. But it wasn't power Grace was drawn to. It was the vulnerability. Sonny let her see behind the curtain. The man broken by loss, haunted by betrayal, and desperate to hold his world together. Not everyone in Port Charles was okay with this dangerous entanglement. Anna Devane, still reeling from recent betrayals, feared Grace's objectivity was compromised. "She's sleeping with Sonny. That alone is grounds for removal." Jordan agreed. "If she doesn't recuse herself from Corinthos' cases, we'll have a legal disaster." Meanwhile, Grace's ex-fiancé, Senator Warren Price, arrived in town with vengeance on his mind. He exposed emails and surveillance footage to the press, confirming the rumors. DA Grace Turner was romantically involved with Port Charles's most notorious mob boss. The fallout was immediate. A grand jury was convened. Sonny was charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy to interfere with law enforcement investigations. Grace was suspended from her duties, pending an ethics review. "I trusted you," she said, tears brimming. "And I never lied to you," Sonny replied, voice low. Port Charles was divided. Some stood by Sonny, claiming he was targeted. Others called for both of their heads. The courtroom turned into a battleground. Scott Baldwin led the charge against Sonny, while Diane Miller did everything to discredit the prosecution. But the centerpiece of the trial? Grace herself, forced to testify. Under oath, Grace was asked, "Did you enter into a romantic relationship with Mr. Corinthos while investigating him?" She paused. "Yes," she finally said. "And it wasn't a tactic. It was real." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Carly stood frozen. Michael shook his head in disbelief. Ava smiled slyly, always loving when the mighty fell. But it was Sonny's reaction that stood out. He didn't flinch. He looked at Grace with nothing but raw, tragic affection. Under oath, Grace was asked, "Did you enter into a romantic relationship with Mr. Corinthos while investigating him?" She paused. "Yes," she finally said. "And it wasn't a tactic. It was real." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Carly stood frozen. Michael shook his head in disbelief. Ava smiled slyly, always loving when the mighty fell. But it was Sonny's reaction that stood out. He didn't flinch. He looked at Grace with nothing but raw, tragic affection. The judge declared a mistrial due to prosecutorial misconduct. Sonny walked free. But Grace? She was disbarred. With her career in ruins, Grace disappeared from the public eye. The media frenzy was relentless. Headlines screamed, "The mobster and the DA, Port Charles's ultimate scandal." Sonny tried to reach her, but she wouldn't take his calls. Jason found her living in a cabin upstate, writing a book about corruption and redemption. "Why'd you come?" she asked. "For Sonny," Jason said. "He's not whole without you." She returned quietly, not as DA, but as a consultant for a private security firm. Her first case? Protecting Donna from an anonymous threat. Carly was livid, but even she couldn't deny Grace saved Donna's life. Months passed. Sonny and Grace met at the pier, the same place they first clashed. "I don't regret us," she whispered. "Neither do I," he said. "But we'll never be normal," she warned. "We never were," he smiled. They agreed to rebuild slowly, no titles, no pretenses. Just two broken souls trying to find light in the darkness. Grace began speaking at law schools about ethics and the power of emotion. Sonny made fewer deals, focused on his family. Dex, now fully trusted, became his second in command. The town began to heal, but the scars of their scandal never fully faded. Not everyone was content with this new world. Carly, though no longer with Sonny, still held resentment. "She wrecked her own career, fine. But I won't let her destroy what's left of yours," she warned him. She quietly partnered with Ned Quartermain and Tracy, digging into Grace's past. What they found? A sealed juvenile record. A dead brother tied to a mob-related overdose. A motive for seeking power and maybe, just maybe, revenge. Sonny, think. What if she came to destroy you? Not love you? Carly warned. But Sonny had one answer. Then she failed. Because I've never been more alive. Port Charles remained divided on Sonny and Grace. Anna resigned, believing the justice system had failed again. Nina, watching from the sidelines, warned Drew, "The more chaos Grace brings, the more Sonny seems to want her." Jocelyn urged her mom to step back, let Dad make his own mistakes. And Grace? She started getting anonymous threats. One note read, "You sleep with monsters. You wake up dead." It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. A year later, invitations were sent. People assumed it was a joke. But it wasn't. Carly showed up. Jason, Dex, even Dante, though conflicted, attended. The ceremony was small, but unforgettable. Grace wore a deep red gown. Sonny wore black. The officiant was Epiphany's cousin, a preacher who believed in forgiveness. When they kissed, no one could deny it. The romance was real. The danger? Ever present. The honeymoon didn't last. Someone poisoned Sonny's coffee. Grace got an alert. Someone inside her former office was working against them both. A new DA, Madeline Shaw, was hell-bent on revenge. "We trusted her," Grace whispered, holding Sonny's hand. "She's going to come after us both," Sonny replied. The war wasn't over. It had only just begun. Now, with the law watching them and enemies circling like sharks, Sonny and Grace stand united. Love brought them together. Scandal nearly destroyed them.
But now?
They're stronger. Port Charles watches with bated breath. Will this unconventional love story end in happily ever after or bloodshed? Only time will tell. Their bond has changed the power dynamics of Port Charles forever. As enemies close in and alliances fracture, one question remains.